divided, uprooted, or wiped away. A redrawn electoral map of our biggest city has caused quite a storm. The Kerslake review into the failings of successive Birmingham City Council administrations recommended fewer councillors in smaller wards with all-up elections every 4 years. That was the easy part. Our BBC WM political reporter Catherine Sten-Cheshire takes up a story where it gets, well, just a little bit more complicated.
The redrawing of any map can be painful, so maybe it's to be expected that the latest boundary change proposals in such a large and complex city as Birmingham have caused a bit of a stir. In fact, they've so incensed one Hall Green resident, he's made his own protest video.
Hello, I'm standing in front of Hall Green United Community Church. Been here since 1924. Well, it's not going to be here for much longer if the bureaucrats have their way. Want to catch a train from Hall Green Station? Been here since 1908. Unfortunately, if the bureaucrats have their way, it's going to be Tyseley Mark II.
As Steve points out in no uncertain terms, under these plans, with the old boundaries shown in blue and the new in red, Hall Green will be split into 3, with the northern part becoming Tyseley. And Steve believes that's so ridiculous, this week he went to the council about it.
It feels like the heart of Hall Green is being ripped in pieces.
Council leader John Clancy said he'd urged the Local Government Boundary Commission to rethink. Under the Kerslake review, Birmingham was told to reduce the number of councillors it has, so that's what's happening, from 120 down to 101. At the moment, there are 40 wards with 3 councillors in each. These new plans try to even things out, with each councillor representing around 7,200 people. There'll now be 77 wards, most with 1 councillor, but some larger ones with 2. There are many changes in this brave new world that are causing concern. Erdington, for example, loses its historical centre. It becomes part of Stockland Green. The Jewellery Quarter is lumped in with Winson Green. Moseley Village isn't actually in Moseley anymore. Instead, it's in Borsall Heath and Cannon Hill. And some wards, like Longbridge, won't exist at all. Change is often regarded with suspicion, of course, particularly when it comes to where people live. But those angry about these plans say they don't work and they want them scrapped.
No consideration's been given to local submissions. A very, very coherent submission from Moseley has been ignored as well, and this is a pattern across Birmingham. It's bizarre.
If I want to say something to the Boundary Commission, it would be that you really need to listen to the people on the ground, because we're the ones who know where we live, who know what the natural barriers are. We're the ones that are here.
So how much does it really matter to the general public?
Moseley's got its own special identity, and we don't want to be called anything else. We just want Moseley to stay as it is.
I don't think it will matter. No, it shouldn't make too much difference, because the community's still here.
I think in a few years' time they'll change it all back again, so I just think it's a complete utter waste of time, really.
A petition against the plans has so far gained more than 500 signatures. The consultation finishes on the 8th of February, but so far nobody seems very happy. It looks like it might have to be back to the drawing board.
Catherine Sten-Cheshire, and we're also joined now down the line from Leeds by Professor Colin Mellors, who's just taken over as the chair of the Local Government Boundary Commission for England. Colin Mellors, it's no mean achievement to unite the Conservative and Labour councillors in Birmingham City Council and the city's MPs, but that's what you've managed to do with these proposals. They're all united in opposition to them.
Well, we genuinely are very pleased by the amount of interest which has been taken in the review.
Please, you'll be inundated with when you're doing your consultation.
That's very good news for us. One of the things the people you spoke to just said that they want to be listened to, and that's precisely what the consultation is about. When we made this, when we started this journey, this exercise, we asked people what it is, where the boundaries should be, and in fact we had about 115 representations made to us, including 4 schemes for the whole of the city. Inevitably, they weren't all saying the same thing. So we've very much been informed by what we heard. We've toured the city extensively and looked at the places, and of course we do it the way that we have to undertake our work, have to abide by 3 statutory criteria to produce wards that are of roughly equal size in terms of the number of electors, to reflect communities, and also to work with boundaries that are meaningful is a trade-off between some of those things. The draft recommendations are precisely that.
But that's
They
what
are
you're
where we
accused
think we
of.
are.
You're accused by people, Izzy Knowles there in Moseley, for example, that you just haven't been listening to people, that areas that have nothing in common are lumped in together. Moseley and Balsall Heath. The jewellery quarter, which has a very distinct character, in with Winston Green, two very different parts of the city.
Well, it would be unfair to, inappropriate to respond to particular areas at the moment because it could potentially compromise it. We're halfway through the consultation process. People have still got a good 3 weeks to say what they think. We've already heard from about 300 of them. We want to hear more. What we want to hear, there are some areas, in any review, there are some areas which are the focus of more attention than others. And of course, we've proposed 77 wards. And a lot of the things that are coming to us are about a handful of those, which clearly people feel passionate about.
Does it
One
make
of the, if I may say, one of the great things about your film is it shows the passion that people have for their communities. That's precisely what we want to hear.
Does it
We
make
will
sense,
ask about
however, if I may break it,
Yeah.
just to have two different separate sorts of wards, some with two councillors in them, others with one single councillor? Wouldn't it have been better to really force this issue and have all of one or all of the other, rather than this hodgepodge?
Well, that's a very interesting thought, because two of the key recommendations in the Kerslake report were to reduce the number of councillors. That's what we're proposing. And secondly is to move away from the uniform three-member system towards smaller ones, ideally all single member. In fact, we've listened to community interest precisely, and that is what has produced the two members in some areas, because we think it would be inappropriate to split communities. But we are still in a position of listening. We want to hear, we want people to be involved.
Keith Stewart, Birmingham MP, you've heard what Professor Mellors has to say. What do you say to him?
Well, I'm glad that he is listening, because there's some historic names and some historic boundaries. Overall, I think, given the remit the Commission was given as a result of the Kerslake report, they were trying to come up with as fair a solution as
And to
possible.
iron out the disparities between larger wards and smaller wards where votes didn't weigh the same.
Well, I think it's actually quite difficult in some of them. So I do. I would have preferred single member wards all across the city, but I can see the
quite an
argument.
issue in your Edgbaston constituency, to take one example.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a very specific issue, and that is the Edgbaston cricket ground is now neither in Warwickshire nor in Edgbaston, and it's suddenly finding itself in something called Balsall Heath and Cannon Hill. So I hope you will take this special pleading for the cricket ground. But I think we now need to look, and I'm very glad that we are looking at the details, because I think there's some finer points which need refining. But overall, it's a step in the right direction, I think.
I know, Colin, you don't want to get into individual issues, but it does really make a mockery of it if Edgbaston Cricket Ground, a famous landmark, isn't in a ward called Edgbaston anymore.
I will resist getting into specific ones, but one of the things, and again it came out in your report, that we really are keen to learn is what places should be called. In a way, sometimes the exercise would be easier if we simply called it 1 to 77. We want to know the names, and people very clearly feel passionate about those names because they see that as part of their identity. And the one thing we will listen to very, very hard is what the name should be. All suggestions really are gratefully received.
Marcus Jones, local government minister, do you not despair when you hear this conversation about boundaries? Of course, we've got a parliamentary boundary review coming up as well. Do you not feel to leave alone, given the passions involved in all this?
Well, not at all. I think it's important that we have this boundary review. I think it's a good thing that the wards, in terms of the number of councillors, is changed, and we move to a system where there is one election every 4 years rather than the current system, which gives the council, whichever colour that may be, the time to plan their strategy over that 4 years and not constantly thinking about an election. But I do hear what the people of Birmingham are obviously saying. The Independent Boundary Commission is there to be just that independent, but they are there to conduct consultations, and within that they listen. In terms of the parliamentary elections, they certainly listened to the consultation that there was on my constituency back several years ago. So I hope for the people of Birmingham that will be the case.
As a cricket follower yourself, how do you feel about Edgbaston not being in Edgbaston, if I can put it that way?
Well, I would, in a perfect world, like to see Edgbaston in the great county of Warwickshire, but I don't think I'm going to get that. But I can certainly understand why local people would think that way.
A final quick word from you, Colin. How confident are you that when the all-out election comes along in 2018, it will be along the lines of these boundaries set out in these documents?
I don't know if they will or not, because us. It's a consultation. The one message I want to say is please look at the proposals in detail. We've got a very good website, www.lgbca.org.uk. Look at what they say, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, and if you don't like something, tell us what you would prefer and why.
Thank you very much indeed. Particular thanks to you, Colin, for being with us here today.